Hey everyone, so you might have seen the new minimalist documentary Less Is Now that was released recently and drawn a lot of excitement in the minimalist community. And we loved the first minimalist documentary and is a huge reason why we became minimalists about 3 years ago. But there has been differing opinions on whether it was practical or helpful or not, and if it dove deeper into what they built upon in the last documentary or if it was helpful at all. So whether you are a seasoned minimalist or someone new to minimalism, we want to go through the main takeaway messages and show how you can apply them to your life, regardless if you're already doing this for a while or you're just getting started. One of the points that they first touched upon was being about clutter-free versus just the minimalist aesthetic. A lot of times when we get into minimalism, we start to see the really cool minimalist aesthetic that you see around in home decor. And sometimes we lose sight of the idea of just being clutter-free. And maybe that means you have a few tacky things and it's not so minimal looking. But having your items down to a manageable number of items and having your space being clutter-free and easy and peaceful, that is what it is all about. And so whether you have been doing this for a long time, maybe you just have to need that reminder that it's more about being clutter-free than just having that really cool aesthetic. And then also if you're just getting into this journey, realizing that you don't have to live up to that really cool aesthetic. You just need to get your home to the place that it feels really good for you. Another big point that they talked about was the psychology behind being raised in a broken and poor home and just accepting anything that you were given. And I can definitely relate to that because we were not at all well off growing up, and you kind of get used to just taking in stuff. You get used to just taking whatever people give you, even if you don't need it. And he was just saying that a lot of us who are raised in that kind of environment, we get used to just taking free handouts and taking things just in case. And that begins to clutter our homes, and we start to feel security by having more of these things. But really, we have to look at the purpose of those things. Are they going to serve us in the end, or is it just something that we're adding to our homes because of that fear or that scarcity of maybe I won't have enough things? So
marketers manipulating our interest. We joke about it all the time that we can think about an item or we talk about an item and then all of a sudden it's coming up on our cell phone. There are ads popping up. That is on purpose. That is not just a coincidence. So there are no perfect products, but there are really smart marketers and advertisement.
And whenever you're starting your journey, you might be tempted to buy a lot of these things that are hit with you when you're on social media. And then even us minimalists who've been doing this for a while, I have been loving the Facebook ads that have been coming my way because I'm like, I actually want some of this stuff.
What is it? What's coming up on yours?
I am getting all kinds of like courses that I really am into, and I'm also getting a lot of the
because you talk about it all. You know what? I robot vacuum.
Right.
Maybe the ad will come up and you'll buy it for me.
Yeah.
Robot vacuum.
I think the robot vacuum might come. But we also
Just
have
kidding.
we had to buy our son a new outlet sock which monitors his heart and all that. And I track my calories on MyFitnessPal, and I got hit with an outlet ad. And sometimes it's stuff that we want, and sometimes it's stuff that we don't want, but they make us feel like we want it. So whether you're a minimalist who's been doing it for a while or someone new, just kind of be aware of that. And they touched on that, which was a great point.
Yeah.
One of the next things that they really talked about was disconnecting our personal value from stuff. And this is a really deep issue, deep thing that we all have to really think about is what are the things that we are tying our worth and value to? Do we feel some type of status when we have certain things, or do we feel like we have to keep up with the Joneses, which is something that you really like to talk about? And are we doing those things for some reason? Even us minimalists who have been doing it for a while, do we feel like we need to buy certain minimalist things to keep up with the minimalist community? Those are all things that I feel they were really trying to highlight is we have to take a look at how we view ourselves when it relates to the stuff that we have in our homes and in our possession.
Mm-hmm. So they touched on focusing and remembering the reason why you became a minimalist in the first place. And even us who we've been doing this for a while, we still have to revisit that and just remind ourselves why we're doing this and why it's so important to us because, seasons change, things happen, you add more kids, whatever it may be, you can sometimes kind of drift away from like the point or, the reason you do it. So just coming back to that is really important so that you can continue on with this lifestyle.
I really love this point because as we've added more kids to the bunch, it has gotten harder, and we find ourselves wanting to buy more stuff to make our lives easier, but then we end up realizing it didn't make our lives easier, and we have to declutter again. Yeah. And so remembering the why behind it, why we became minimalists, why we want to have our home feel a certain way, that is so huge for the seasoned minimalists. Mm-hmm. And I think it does apply to those who are starting too, because you have to have a really strong why to even start decluttering, and that will really power you through. And if you want to see a video about finding that why, I made a video just recently that is Dear Minimalists, Don't Give Up. So go check that one out as well. So they mentioned that the average household has 300,000 items.
Dang.
That speaks for itself. They also talked about misplaced desire. So binging and buying things when we really want something else. So there's something deeper that we are really wanting, but we're using shopping addiction or buying stuff to make us feel better as a way to basically fill that hole. So whether that's you have a passion for something or you want to live a simpler life, or whatever it is, sometimes buying a bunch of stuff and filling our homes is one of the ways that we compensate. And that is true for anyone, whether you just start out or, been doing it for a while.
So the next thing that they talked about was putting items in boxes. And sometimes we do that because we wanted to, preserve the memory, but then we never look at those boxes. So really, why are we storing them? One of the minimalists had mentioned that his mother had kept like so many things from his childhood in boxes. And he said that they had probably not been touched in years. He said he thinks his mom probably just put them in the box and like never opened the box. And he said, she was trying to preserve his childhood and have those memories, but again, like, why keep it if you're never going to look at it? So that's really important to us because we stopped keeping so many like sentimental things that we knew we weren't going to look at again. So I shared, we made 2 shadow boxes, one for Mila, one for Zion. We're going to make one for Legend. And it's actually on display in our house because we figured, well, if we love these baby items from when they came home from the hospital, either we display them or we get rid of them because we're not going to just put them to be forgotten in some box. And
that's really hard, especially when you are parents, because everything is kind of special.
Yeah.
But you want to keep as much as you can all the time because you're like, this was such a special memory, or this means so much to me, or their blanket. Mm-hmm. But if it's just going to be stored in a box, then what good is it doing there anyway? Yeah. You don't really need to hold on to it. Sometimes just kind of having a moment with the item and remembering it, or sending yourself an email or note to remind yourself.
Take a picture. So if it's a blanket your kid loves, we can go so far into this, but if it's like a blanket your kid loves, like a picture of your kid with the blanket is just as good or even better than just storing it in a box you're going to forget about. So just there's little things that you can do to preserve the memory, because the memory is not in the stuff.
In the documentary, they mentioned that the average debt is $16,000. And I think that's just consumer debt. I don't think that's considering student loans. And that is astronomical, and just shows, again, that we sometimes compensate, our emotions and all that stuff for things. And when you start to rely on credit cards and all that stuff, especially if you're trying to build up your financial legacy, or you're trying to pay off debt and stuff like that, you just got to get rid of it, because it's not helping you in your minimalism journey, and it's not helping you in your financial journey and whatever type of lifestyle that you're trying to build for your family. So yeah, that was an interesting statistic. I know those numbers kind of change from different sources, but even just knowing that $16,000. That's
That was
a
us.
lot. Well, that was just my student loan.
Yeah.
That wasn't even our consumer debt. If we had $16,000 and student loans,
Yeah,
and
that'd be
which
tough.
is a lot of people, and there's no shame on people who have that, but just getting that together is so important.
Yeah.
This next one is one that someone who's just beginning can just really jump right into. And I believe Ryan did this, and it was the party packing technique.
I love it.
It's crazy. So he packed everything he owned everything he owned in his house in boxes. And over the course of 3 weeks, he only took things when he actually needed it. And he said, I believe 90% of the stuff stayed in the boxes, and he got rid of everything that he didn't use in that 3 week span. And that might seem crazy. And I think it does sound crazy because I'm like, even I couldn't,
Yes.
I could, but I would feel like, wow, that's a crazy
It's like
move.
crazy but amazing.
Yeah, I kind of wish we would have done that before we had kids.
Yeah, but I've actually given this advice to someone before who said that they had like a bunch of stuff that they thought they would need one day. And I actually have shared this with so many people, but this lady specifically, I told her to put those things in a box and put it in her closet. And I said if she didn't touch it in 3 months, to get rid of it. But don't open the box. Because if you open the box, you're like, oh, maybe you're going to go through the cycle again. And I remember she followed up with me on Instagram and she was like, I got rid of the boxes. She's like, I don't even remember what's in them. Mm-hmm. So that's like a huge thing. And I've shared that with a few other people as well. And it's true. Sometimes we really we look at it and we think we're going to need it, but we really don't. So I'm going to test that theory. I'm going to put some of your stuff in a box and see if you touch it or not.
We don't always realize how much time stuff needs from us. It takes our time to take care of it. It takes our time to use it. It takes our time to organize it. It takes our time to just have it. When you have less stuff to worry about, you have more time to just be.